Valentina. It's definitely like a rock LP.
Loud guitars, big cymbals, big drums as well.
Charlie certainly likes to rock, punchy drummer. This one was written with the whole wedding present sound in mind, aiming for kind of a synthesis of everything that had gone under that name before.
Loud and in your face, I guess.
Pretty much the sound of the live band as it is now. It has been a long wait since the last album, but I think it's partly because of the way David does so much of the operation, and he's only got so many hours in his day.
You hear about these bands who, at the rehearsals of sound checks and things, they actually write the next album and then record it in the back of the van and all that. And great if you can do that. I'm really envious, but for me, I've got to be focused on what I'm doing. It's probably one thing at a time or something. So on tour, I'm on tour, and then after that's finished, we'll go back and look at new songs.
It didn't feel like a slow process. It just felt like other things needed to be done in between things.
So obviously there was a series of lineup changes between El Rey and Valentina.
David really talked me into switching to guitar, and I hadn't played a lot of guitar in bands before, but he knew that I had an enthusiasm for it anyway, shall we say.
When Pepe came in, it's kind of like we're starting from square one again.
Pepe joining in did inevitably make it different.
It's kind of a different group, really, recording this LP, which I think is good. I think it works in its favour.
I remember 5 songs that they had, of which 3 songs made it onto the album, and they were already pretty established in the band. They have been playing them live, and there was a good demo going round of them. A lot of the other songs we actually developed throughout the year. Some of them we played live in last year's Bizarro tour.
Yeah, it's funny because when you first play a new song live, you're really worried about it, about how it's going to go down with the audience, because you want them to love it. But who says they're going to? You're very kind of precious of it. It's like a little child.
I think the new songs, as we've been, dropping them into the set every now and again, have been going down really well.
That was a new song called End Credits. Was it good? I'm glad you liked it. It's always a risky moment, the new song, isn't it? It's when you see people walking off to the toilets usually, so glad you stuck around. That's actually the first time it's ever been played. In Munich. Thank you very much. I'm here all week.
I think it's always good to have a period of touring and doing live shows and then working on an album, because there was always a bit of a live edge in it, and yeah, loud and in your face, I guess.
When we recorded El Rey, we were obviously playing George Best live at the time, and I think that definitely did influence the way some of the songs came together there. This time for me it didn't, and I think if you speak to Graeme he will disagree, because I think he felt it did tie him a bit, and I think Bizarro is Graeme's favourite wedding present record, so I think he wanted to kind of take something from that kind of era.
I can't stand this apprehension. Maybe we should.
I certainly feel that David and I were in the habit of playing in a certain way. Charlie was in the habit of playing a certain way. The bass sound was well established. I think if I was aiming to write wedding present music, it was always going to be prominent in there. That definite sound.
Yes, it's true.
The kind of song arrangement-wise, it doesn't really chime in with any previous records for me, because I think it's quite eclectic. I think there's certain oddness to it really, which occasionally surfaces in the wedding present, but I think there's more on this record than normal. I think there's odd time signatures and stopping and starting, and just kind of things where it's like it'll be a pop song and you oh, here's the verse, here's the chorus. Oh, what's this? Some weird section which came out of the blue, and so I think there's some quite strange arrangements on there.
More surprised than me when you wrote your number down and said, call me at the first opportunity.
Some of the songs just came out a bit more rock than we probably intended to in the first place, just because of this live touring.
I think we had about 13 tracks, maybe 14 tracks, and I think David was ready to go into the studio, and myself and Graeme thought, why don't we, we're not going in next month, so we've got time, let's see if we can write some more, so we wrote a few more.
It was quite a squeeze between a couple of live dates, rehearsal for the recording, then going recording. So I think in the end, we just had about a week of rehearsals and then went off to France.
Steve Albini, actually, a few years ago, for some reason we were just talking about studios. I asked him if he had any recommendations in Europe for recording studios, and he said, well, Abbey Road, which, okay, and then this other place, Black Box. Peculiarly, because it's a studio in France, both the engineers were actually not French. One of them, Peter Daimel, he's German. The other person who helps us record it is called David Odlum, and he's Irish. Yeah, they were kind of contrasting talents, I think, in that Peter was the the kind of boffin, I suppose, in the old school style. David, I think, was more au fait with the more kind of modern recording techniques. The best way to record a band like us is a great sounding room with great equipment, good guitars, good drums, good bass, good microphones, well placed, and just play it, you know. It was recorded quickly in terms of how most bands record. For us, I think it's probably par for the course, 5 days.
When we got there in the evening, I think we set the drums up, chose the drum kit, set those up.
Is that better? Question mark?
Maybe you still want to bring the front head down a bit. They were mic'd up the next morning. We went in and I had an idea of what songs I wanted to start with, you know, kind of get certain ones out of the way, the faster ones, while I still had, you know, energy. And then moving on into the evening, it was easier to kind of play the slower tracks maybe, you know, and you're getting a little bit tired. And I think for the drums, it was, yeah, 2 days.
Alright, we're ready to rock.
It was a bit of a challenge for me because we knew we had this period of 1.5 days, and it's not just the album tracks, it's 17 songs that we recorded. And I knew that as a bass player, because it was more of a live recording situation, I had to nail it, you know, at the moment, okay, this is a good drum take, therefore the bass better be good on it as well.
Yeah, so we should make a decision on that and then...
I think we did it really, really quickly. With most takes were like 1 or 2 takes and we had them, and yeah, it's fun.
Oh, you're probably waiting for us. Sorry, a little chat.
Does that feel better?
It's very different to the rehearsals.
There's definitely a rockiness to it compared to the last 1 or maybe 2. I think that's just the natural tendencies of the guys in the group now. I like grubby, distorted sounds, so Charlie certainly likes to rock. He's an enthusiastic and punchy drummer.
The kind of changes in the tempos and the different time signatures as well was just kind of evolved through the writing of the record, being in the rehearsal room and Graeme having a guitar line and kind of discussing it, going, yeah, that's great, where do we go from here? Oh, why don't we kind of go double time here or pick this up or push this a little bit more?
End Credits came about because I was just thinking of, you know, what other avenues can we look at for new material, and look, we've got 2 drummers in the band, but also it was more about David's guitar sound, believe it or not. He has the signature playing style, the fast, jangly kind that everybody knows. But that's, the older stuff is really like that. George Best and Bizarre were like that. But sort of from the early 90s onwards, he has a second signature sound that I think of. It's the Strat, it's the E tuning, and it's a really, really distinctive sound. So I thought we should try and showcase that more. I actually wrote the riff in my head in David's shower on the morning of our rehearsal, and it just came together really naturally.
Great tune, really, really rocking, and I play my kind of style very straight and everything, and then he's kind of playing off of that, which yeah, I just wouldn't fancy really. So it was easy when we were working out the parts for that. It's like, right, I'll do this, you do the funky thing.
Having just spent 2 years playing with him, it was almost like, you know, playing along to a click track that you knew better than you can trust your feel of what the time is. You can almost hear you can almost see him when you're playing along. So it actually helps. It's possibly even easier. I'm not the most demonstrative or exciting looking guitarist, and I maybe don't spend a lot of energy compared to that of the drumming, and I suppose that was the hardest thing about it, to sit down and suddenly be playing punk drums.
85% of the sound of the record, to me anyway, is I know what it's going to sound like before we even go in the studio. And I think, you know, occasionally you will experiment with the facilities that are there, the amplifiers that are there. You know, here's this weird guitar that you would try it and stuff, and it will change, you know, little things. But you know, it's not going to sound totally different, because I think, well, you know, speaking for me, I'm quite stubborn really. I think, yeah, it sounds quite good, but I think I'll go back to my own setup actually, because I think that sounds better.
It feels good if you just play for this bit here, but I think if we just listened with a long pause before that, it feels to me like maybe half a second too quick.
Once we had the kind of a live recording of the drums, bass and guitars, then we kind of looked back and said, okay, well I can play that better on my guitar.
right hand. Kind of
And then there were overdub things, there were little bits of piano or... There was a nice old harmonium outside the back door of the studio, so we actually recorded that in the open air.
You can hear me falling over. There's an ashtray outside, so I fell over that at one point. But it all adds to the kind of ambient sound of it, I think, really.
Just a reprise of Deer, really, that's why it was tacked on the end. It was just an interesting old instrument. It was all dusty and tired looking, but it made a really tuneful sound and I really liked it. So it was just through messing around with it really on downtime, and David liked the sound of it and we threw it on the end.
I really liked it because it really puts your mind to what you're doing. There's no distractions there, you're just out in the nowhere. I mean, the only distraction we had was ping pong.
But, you know, sometimes you don't sort of want too much relaxation. I've recorded in studios before where there was, you know, great facilities. If you're on holiday, you know, there's a croquet lawn and I think there's a swimming pool and stuff. Which was genius, really, on the part of the studio, because you banned the flipping playing croquet for an hour. Like, excuse me, it's costing you £200, you know, an hour to do this. And, but yeah, so it's nice. I think the black box was good because there's nothing else to do apart from record, really. So in the middle, totally in the middle of nowhere. So that was good.
All that just really helped. That. You know, to make a fantastic album, I guess, yeah.
You ready, Graeme? You're making us late. You're making us late. Say goodbye to your erstwhile home.
See ya.
And so we leave. Black box recording studio.
I don't know.
Yesterday.
Yeah.
But today it sounds brighter again.
Right. So
I hope we don't.
I could always match it up. I mean,
Oh, can you? One thing about digital technology is that you, for vocals, you can record anywhere really, as long as you've got a good microphone. So there was no need to be based at an expensive studio to record vocals. So I happened to be in Los Angeles anyway at that time, so I've got a friend who's got a little studio there. It's got the glamorous name of Ulysses Noriega, who just did the vocals there.
I stayed in Brighton.
I thought, I'm not going to fly over for a few backing vocals. Oh, they're joking. It worked quite well, actually. It was, you know, it was a really efficient way of doing it. In that I'd sing the main vocal in the day in Los Angeles, and then we'd upload the file and send it to Pepe in Brighton. So of course we went to bed then. Meanwhile, they were in Brighton doing the backing vocals, and then they'd send us the file back the next day.
Half of you says I should. Says I wouldn't. Half of you says I would.
Already when we were recording it, I realised that the sounds we got out of all these different amps and settings, it just made it sound really, really good, and we just got it spot on to how we wanted it, and then Andrew Sheps came along and mixed it, and he did a really, really good job.
After you.
We aim for that sort of more a punchier and possibly more radio friendly, but that being a byproduct rather than the aim kind of mix in the end. But I thought that combined well with the trueness of the recordings, so it makes a good balance.
Yeah.
Definitely helps, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I think I've just saved your track there for you.
Thanks, man. Appreciate that. Nice. Of course, I'll need an engineering credit.
Gets the most out of every sound. He separates everything. It doesn't sound clinical or too polished, but everything's clear. Everything has its own space.
Yeah, this mix is really perfect. Can't put my finger on why that might be.
Right.
It's all falling into place.
It all came together on this mix, didn't it?
Nothing that niggles or irritates. Perfect.
I'm finding it difficult to quite catch the lyrics though.
Oh, I hadn't noticed that.
You didn't notice that?
It's just that kind of compact sound that we really hoped we would get, and he was really the perfect guy for it.
It was already sounding okay, but he just made it punchy and exciting, and you know, made it rock really.
I hope you find what you're looking for. Do you even know what that
I think the record and the mix that Andrew Sheps did on it is fantastic.
I hope he's really the one.
I'm really pleased with it. It's got more oomph to it.
Will make all your dreams come true.
Valentina. Well, it's a typical Gedgean one, to be honest. It was just an obscure and slightly erotic comic book from Italy from the 60s. You're always pleased with what you're doing most recently because it's the way your mind is at the moment, that you know that's the last thing you've worked on. So you're close to it and you involved with it, and yes, I'm satisfied with the way it's come out. I'm very happy with that.
There's really no need to explain. He's Tarzan and you're Jane. He's Bogart, you're Bacall. I'm sure he has it all.
I certainly feel like it's a wedding present album that's in keeping with the records they already like. I hope that people will respond to it in a similar way.
Just don't come